mad at a woohoo. I don't know how I feel about it.
That's not in the script. I don't
It's
know.
Friday, and we are live and alive. Oh my God, am I screaming to my microphone? I'm sorry.
I like
This
it.
is Ari, the data queen, joined
Come
by
on, wake me up.
analyst Hole, Matt Viscardi, Jesse the Money Whisperer, and Hazelnut Rawless. That's sleepy Hazelnut Rawless. On today's weekly wrap-up, we have Pointless Furniture, Greedy God, and Uplifting Bills.
Wait,
I don't know what any of that means.
I don't know what any of that means.
I'm greedy God. Get ready.
I capitalized God. I hope it doesn't offend anybody.
As an atheist, I'm wondering which one you're referring to.
Ari, you had uplifting bills in all caps with 5 exclamation points, but you didn't sound like that when you said
Yeah.
it.
Well, I hope nobody thinks I'm talking about the football team that lost.
Oh, that's what I did. I was actually thinking that, the Buffalo Bills.
Okay. Well, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about our
Bill.
legislative process.
Oh.
Bill Clinton. I don't know what you're talking about. All right.
No, nobody cares about that.
Definitely not him.
All right. Should we do this thing?
Let's
Damien,
do it.
please help us
Oh.
get started
It's Damien's turn.
with story
Also,
of the week.
we're saying that we're recording this. If you're watching the live stream right now, which
Oh,
you're
yeah?
not,
Oops.
we're recording the Friday show on a Thursday.
It's Thursday.
Because Ari is actually leaving
for vacation.
Wow.
for
tomorrow.
vacation.
We already are offering vacation time at the end of January. What's
Yeah,
wrong with this company?
She waited as long as she could before she took her first vacation day in 2024.
we gotta have a meeting with HR. This is crazy.
I'm HR. Hello.
Fired HR.
No, actually, yeah,
Jesse's
we don't have
HR, I
HR.
think.
Jesse is.
All right.
But you guys went to high school together, so clearly there's a conflict of interest there too.
Yeah.
Connection.
Yes,
Definitely.
because people matter.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, I'm very concise this week, thank God, because I've looked
Love
ahead
that.
to your segments, and you guys are very long-winded. So I
Yeah.
will start with Exxon. Exxon sues 2 ESG investors. They are suing Arjuna Capital and Follow This.
Why?
Because both of those entities are trying to put shareholder proposals up on their upcoming proxy statement, their annual meeting. They're taking a very unusual route. Usually companies go right to the SEC, but Exxon's decision to seek legal judgment makes a more aggressive pushback against climate activists who use shareholder voting
Oh no.
to influence boardroom strategy. So I think what they're hoping, I'm guessing, is to set some kind of a precedent that allows these companies to bypass the SEC
Ugh, that
and
sucks.
say
Yeah.
we can do whatever the hell we want.
Bully them.
And what Exxon is saying is that since the SEC is full of political appointments, that the SEC doesn't really have it has kind of an arbitrary process of making decisions based on which political
well,
parties are
they're
being
not
represented.
wrong.
But there's 2 things that are true about this. One is that if you buy shares in a company, you are the owner of the company, no matter how few shares you own, and you have a right.
You have rights.
To, at a certain level, put forward proxies. And number 2, this
Right,
is...
but the company does have a right to exclude certain proposals based on SEC guidelines.
Well, not only that, but these are non-binding shareholder proposals. Like, even if it were to pass...
Well, that's the crazy thing, yeah.
So
that's
all Exxon has to do is write in the proxy for the shareholder proposal, we disagree, vote against. BlackRock's guaranteed to vote against. They vote against everything now. It's just like they used to. So it's not exactly like this is onerous, but they're making a point here. Number 2, the board that had to approve the lawsuit is the engine number 1 board. The
Well,
people in the boardroom, at
three of
least
them,
three of them, three of them were put there by an activist with limited shares who wanted to change the makeup of the boardroom.
Well, we don't know that they voted for this. We don't really know, do we? They could
we
have voted
don't.
against this.
Yeah, what do you think?
I think they voted for this.
Yeah, I think that's probably correct.
I think once they realize how much money there's to be made at Exxon and being friends with Exxon types, they're like, yeah, we'll just go with what you say.
Yeah, whatever.
The
didn't
next
take
big
long.
story is a director story. I love director stories. Do you guys, who knows who Dwayne Johnson is? Anyone? Dwayne Johnson?
I do.
Who doesn't
We all
know who
do.
Dwayne Johnson
I
is?
didn't know that his name was that recognizable. I know him as his stage name, The Rock. The Rock is joining Ari, you'll be happy to know that The Rock is joining your database, your data set. He will become a director at TKO.
Yes.
wow.
Yeah. You know what? And you know why they brought him in?
To beat up Vince McMahon.
He's huge.
They brought him in because Vince McMahon is listed as a risk in the filing.
Well-
so now he has to fight him.
It's not quite
he's
true.
not gonna be a risk though.
That's
I
not
wish.
quite true because he's actually representing one of the. So the WWE and Endeavor each have designated director seats, and he is representing Vince McMahon's side because he's a WWE wrestler. But he also, unlike most directors, he also is entering the board with a services agreement worth $30 million in stock.
Wow.
Yeah, baby. Get paid.
What?
So there you go. The
'Cause
Rock
he needs
joined
that.
the TKO board.
I feel like, right, like he's probably richer than most of the board.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I'm going to look into this.
No.
I'll come back with numbers. Are you
Third
joking
big-
me from all the Furious and whatever movies?
Oh, he was in.
Is this not him?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was in a
I
couple of
suppose.
those.
Yeah.
I don't really know.
Oh,
But Vin
this
Diesel
makes
was in all of
millions
those.
dollars.
Well,
The Rock was
I'll
in
say-
a couple.
Also happening this week over at Netflix. Netflix has signed an agreement to air live wrestling, WWE, right
Yeah,
there on
finally.
Netflix, which
Wow.
is just bizarre to me.
Yeah, everybody's been waiting for that.
Don't have to take out the DVDs from the library anymore.
But where's Bob Iger? Shouldn't Bob Iger be signing Disney onto his platform?
Yeah.
The third big story of the week is the patriarchy wins again is the headline.
Aw.
So I don't know if anyone's following the Oscars nominations, but we have kind of an ESG related story with the Oscar nominations. So the movie Barbie. So the Barbie picture itself, the movie was nominated for an Oscar, but not the director. Feminist director Greta Gerwig, she was not nominated,
Yeah.
and Barbie herself, Margot Robbie, was not nominated, but Ken, the man, was nominated. So this is what this article is about.
That's a
I think this is kind of in line with the BlackRock is now rolling back all its vows to fight climate change, its ESG goals. I think it's the same thing. I think they're bowing to anti-woke pressure.
I'm a little bit sad that the Oscars are not relevant anymore. This story would be much more interesting if anyone cared.
I think people only
I think
care
most
about the
people care.
Oscars because of all the snubs. Maybe
Yeah.
they do it on purpose to generate buzz.
That's
he might
true.
be right.
Conspiracy.
That's true.
Except for the 150-year history of denying women Oscar nominations for directing
Well,
films.
now it's a strategy.
But what if they knew that Barbie was going to lose everything and they're actually sparing everyone but the man? They're basically going to have the man there who's got to sit through the ceremony.
He is very good looking.
And they're going to turn to him when Barbie loses, and he's going to have to like clap for whoever won. Annoyed. I maybe that's the plan. Maybe it's not a snub. Maybe it's saving face.
Boo.
And finally, the fourth story of the week.
My theory.
The fourth story of the week is not a new story, but it's new to me, and it's one of my favorite corporate governance, one of my favorite board stories I think I've ever heard. This is from an article in the Financial Times called "How Unions Are Fighting a Boardroom Battle at Starbucks," and they reveal a story. An anecdote that I have not yet heard, and I'm going to read from the article. It says, there is a famous story about Starbucks that is often cited during discussions of governance. At board meetings, there is an empty chair.
Yes.
Let me finish the story, sound effects person.
I love this.
There is an empty chair to represent the interests of the coffee giant's employees. That's right. The idea
Why
comes
don't they
from its
actually bring
Oh my
an
God, will you-
employee in?
Yeah,
love it.
Speaking of employees, someone shut Matt up. The idea was proposed by founder and former CEO Howard Schultz to show that the company's baristas have a symbolic seat at the table. So the emptiest gesture in the history of corporate America,
This is so bad.
symbolized by an empty chair.
Just like the
at the boardroom.
symbolic blanket. right?
The Holocaust,
Yeah, Holocaust
blanket.
blanket. Yeah.
This is worse because Howard Schultz literally could have a representative from the many thousands of stakeholders, the people that he claims are so important that he calls them partners. And he says over and over and over how instrumental they are to the company, how they are the company, these partners. And he has them represented by an empty chair at the board. This is the greatest story.
I feel like baristas don't know about this. We need to tell them
hopefully
this.
now they do if they're listening to this story.
Because I think when they were protesting or walking out, doing their walkouts, they would just, hold up
They'd be
chairs.
holding
Chair.
up empty
Yeah.
chairs. Yeah. That would
Come
be
on.
exhausting though. They probably
So-
did know, but that was like
Oh, it's too heavy,
this is too
man.
heavy. I'm not doing this.
So those are my 4 stories. Exxon sues ESG investors. The Rock joining TKO board. Patriarchy wins again at the Oscars. An empty chair at Starbucks. Again, that's not a news story, but the Financial Times just had that this week. So
Hope it
why.
gets
New to
picked
me.
up. All right, I'm going to vote first.
Oh,
Ari
it's a
always goes
shock.
first.
Yeah.
I love Ari going
Surprise.
first.
And I'm going to go with Exxon suing
Oh, what?
No.
Okay.
ESG investors.
I don't
I
like
think-
this.
Well, I don't like that. I don't like that they're doing that. And I feel like, I don't know, I don't want the nuns to get sued.
Yeah, when are you going to sue a nun, Exxon? Get
good
on
look.
that.
So
Jesse, do you have a vote?
Yeah, I'm voting for the empty chair.
Ooh.
Thank you, Jesse. Somebody
Yeah.
understands. Somebody gets it.
That felt easy to me.
No,
Yeah,
well,
come on.
So this is actually hard for me because I think the empty chair is like the greatest anecdote I've ever heard in my life.
Unfortunately, it's not new, unfortunately, the story, but still.
But it's definitely the story of the week feels like Exxon to me.
Oh.
I really thought he was going to say Barbie.
I know.
No, it feels
I thought
like
he was
Exxon.
going somewhere else.
Because look, we don't have much in the way of precedent of a company suing shareholders for doing what is legally their right to do, which is put up a proxy, right? Like put up a shareholder proposal.
Sure.
That means if Exxon were to win this lawsuit, it would suggest that anytime a company doesn't like what a shareholder proposal or one of their investors has to say, they can just sue them. Instead of not putting it there, instead of going through all the normal channels, and or instead of even putting it up for a vote and letting it fail, they can sue them.
Yep.
That, which to me is, it's
trying to
really
drain them.
horrid. It's a really bad look for Exxon because
They don't care.
They don't care. Well, that's the thing. They don't care. They know the wind is behind their back when it comes to this ESG stuff being like a focus of conservatives. So that's the story.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Damien.
That's
Are we
disappointing.
thanking Damien?
Well, I want to get
She's
to
the
mine.
host. Let the host thank me.
I got 3 good lists,
Ooh.
and they're so good you're gonna have trouble.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna
okay.
start with
We'll
this
see about
headline. Southwest Airlines flight attendants vote to approve strike authorization. You know I
Okay.
love me a good strike.
It's
Now,
good
this
and
is-
bad, yeah.
This is Southwest, back in the headlines, right? The company that up until the 2022 holiday season had us all believing, or I don't know, maybe just myself, that it was peace and love with their hearts all over
you
their
believe
marketing.
that?
I believed
Yeah,
it. They were
what a
the
sucker.
number
Have you
one
ever,
by their
have you ever
employees.
flown Southwest? It's a
Yeah.
terrible experience.
I enjoyed it. I don't understand.
Really?
Have you flown Spirit?
No. Who's
I don't
flown
think so.
Spirit?
That's
I
a
have.
terrible
I don't
experience.
have a desire to die.
Definitely have.
So their philosophy was happy employees equals happy customers, right? Well, I guess their
Happy
relationship
pilots.
is complicated right now. 98% of flight attendants belonging to the Transport Workers Union of America voted to authorize a strike against the company for the first time ever. Now you might be asking, hey, Data Queen, didn't they just approve a new labor agreement
Hey,
where they're going to get
I
know they
50%
did.
raise over 5 years? Nope, that was the pilots only. That was
Oh.
not the flight attendants.
Oh.
Flight attendants
Yeah.
want a piece of the pie as well. So this
go.
is great.
That's why I feel
labor
bad about
movement,
this one.
keeping it going, Matt. You
I
said it was
know.
going to die this year.
is gonna
Look
die.
at it. Look at
Love
it.
that.
It's gonna die.
I want to vote for
I lo-
this just because Matt
Look at
thinks
it
it's
and
gonna
weep.
die.
No, it's gonna die.
I mean, I like this, Ari, but it is what depresses me is that the pilots did get this great deal, and I'm guessing that the flight attendants are
Well, not because they're a
ma-
majority women and the pilots
Yes,
are
I mean,
majority men.
right?
Yeah, we're
Right?
going to get
Oh,
right to that,
ooh.
Damien.
I mean,
But right now, we're going to move to number 2. This is my headline. Outrageous CEO pay targeted in new bill from Bernie Sanders and U.S. Democrats.
Let's go,
I'm so
Bernie.
surprised.
A bill to limit corporate greed. And I don't
Sounds
want
good.
anyone to tell me that this is not good because they'll never pass. I don't
Well,
want that type of negativity.
That's what you're going to hear.
Yes.
So
But let me tell you about the bill. Directors that, well, because CEO pay is in the hands of the boards of directors, right? It's not the companies that pay their CEOs.
and shareholders supposedly.
Supposedly. So those people that pay CEOs over 50 times the typical worker's salary would
Yeah.
expect to pay higher taxes under this bill.
That's every company,
right. Just for
Not
reference,
free float.
not free flow.
it's reverse. The average for the S&P 500 in 2022, the average CEO pay ratio was 272 to 1.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yep. At the top of the list for 2022 was Live Nation at
Of course.
5,414.
They have Taylor Swift
Yeah,
and
baby.
Beyonce to thank for that.
Live Nation.
No, they have.
the
They don't.
website
No, they
that,
don't have
like,
Taylor Swift to
was
thank for that. They have
down.
Taylor Swift's fans to thank for that.
That's
And Beyonce's fan.
That was the biggest
yeah, and her
failure
fans.
for them. Are you kidding? They're
failing
they
up,
couldn't
baby.
deal with it.
Fail
Fail up
Where's
the
5,400
Where's the
times.
failure? Yeah, where's the failure?
The
Okay,
whole
well-
their system crashed when all
Other-
the fans tried to buy stuff.
Other companies that we know at the top
not
are
failure.
Coca-Cola at 1,800, McDonald's at 1,200, and you might be saying, well, the people who work in McDonald's, they don't make a lot. Also, Apple at 1,100.
Oh. Well, that one is a bit of a flash in the pan, though, because Tim Cook got one of those Elon Musk deals that paid him like several
he
$billion
met insane metrics.
and met metrics that everybody could have guessed that he would have met anyway.
Whatever. Anyway, moving on to something good from Florida.
No.
Florida House passes a bill to ban social media accounts for children under 16.
That's awesome.
Okay.
And
I
I'm
don't know how I
gonna
feel about
read-
this.
And I was just so floored by this article. I'm going to read 3 quotes from there.
Yeah.
Florida children under the age of 16 would be banned from popular social media platforms regardless of parent approval.
Ooh, I
How are
like
you gonna do
that.
that?
And this
Yeah.
is what bill sponsor Republican Rep
Yeah.
Tyler Soros said.
I'm sure he's a great guy. I'm guessing great guy.
Yeah, no, probably.
They're taking advantage of kids growing up. That's their business model. And why do they do it? To keep them hooked with the dopamine hits
Blah,
that the
blah,
platform gives
blah.
their children. With
You hate
every
social
autoplay,
media.
with
Why are you
every
being a
I
like,
know,
hater?
With every
women can't get
notification.
abortions, but teenagers can't
Dude.
go on Facebook. I don't know. I
Okay.
just,
yeah,
I
they
get
can't
you.
have
There's-
anything.
I can't.
Blah, blah,
I can't
blah.
get behind Florida anything, Ari. I'm sorry.
Republican House
It's a
Speaker.
decent precedent that could be set.
Florida Republican House Speaker Paul Renier, whatever his name is, said the Florida bill should withstand constitutional scrutiny because it targets the
It won't.
addictive features of social media and not the content of social media, which is
Oh.
how Facebook always gets at it. Meta. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg.
Hey,
sorry.
we have an
Ooh, I
age
like
limit
that.
for drinking, and that's addictive, and social media is
Yeah,
addictive.
right, and you're right.
So why don't we
And
have
Jesse-
age limits?
You're so right, Jesse. I've never known a high school kid to drink. It's just.
I certainly did not.
I didn't either.
yeah, right. Sure. Uh-huh.
Anyway,
So the
I
way they'll
like-
solve this though is with when you sign in to Instagram, it's like, are
Lie
you
about your age?
18? And then
Sure.
you're just like, yes.
And
Right,
you
it
put a
passes
different
the
birthday in.
it passes the burden on to the kid, right? Like there's
I
no way they
like
can actually
this.
check this. How are they
Anything-
going to enforce this, Jesse? How?
I don't know, but I like it.
anything that brings attention to the detrimental
Yeah,
effects
I
of social
agree.
media.
So
I'm all
why don't
for
they
it.
get rid of? How about this, Florida Republicans? First of all, everything else you do sucks. But second of all,
True.
why don't you attack Section 230 and actually have these social media companies liable for the content they put out instead of doing this weird
Jesse hit
thing
us
that
with
no
some
one's
section
gonna
we don't
do.
I know.
Damn.
Section 230 is the thing that says that if you created a platform, you are not responsible
Oh,
for
right,
what's
right,
put
right,
on the
right, right,
platform.
right.
Oh, wrong.
No, I think about that. They are not responsible for the content on their platform because
Crazy.
because if we were just talking about videos with like snowball fights, everybody would be fine.
All
It
right.
used to be just cat memes.
Which
Cat
two of my stories are you voting for, Damien?
Which two? These are tough.
There's Southwest flight attendants strike authorization. There's CEO pay bill from Bernie Sanders, and there's Florida's ban on social media accounts under 16.
I can't support anything out of Florida. I'm sorry, because I don't, and I don't even.
That's
trust,
why she said 2.
Yeah, I don't even trust. I don't. There's no way I trust Tyler Sruwar or Republican House Speaker Paul Renner. But I applaud you for trying to be bipartisan here on the show.
Thank you. Somebody has to.
Somebody has to. Southwest Airlines, look, I'm all for striking workers, but I feel like that they shouldn't even be in this position in the first place.
Because
the
they should have
pilots,
been lumped together with the pilots.
I mean,
So
come on,
it's not
crazy.
They don't want to be. They don't want to be bogged down by the women.
So
Are
it's
you
not
that they have
good
to
that they're
risk
trying?
that they have to risk going out in the picket. It's not like these experiences in the picket lines are easy and
So
fun.
your advice
I mean,
is just sucks for you.
no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying Southwest get it into action and pay your flight attendants.
The
Like,
best
it's
part
ridiculous.
will be when Southwest runs flights with no flight attendants on it because they're striking, but they still run the flights. So you get on a Southwest plane and there's no one. It's just like you. It'd
They'll
be
seal all the exit
because
doors.
they have to lock the pilot doors now thanks to terrorism, right? Like, so all the pilot doors are locked, so you can't get access to the pilots, which means it would be Lord of the Flies. Can you imagine
Zoo
like the
out
people
there.
just walking around? They'd be punching each other for stuff.
We'll have Roombas
Honestly,
patrolling around.
You
So
have
Ari-
you have to admire the flight attendants if for no other reason than they are like the parents to the like kindergartners that are people taking flights now. Like they walk around and they're like, "Excuse me, sir, you can't like wave that cigarette butt in that baby's face. You need to, they're the adults in the room."
Yeah, no, look, of course I support the flight attendants. I support all labor movements. I'm just angry at Southwest. I'm going to go for the Bernie Sanders bill because I know it's not going to pass. It needs 60 votes. But I think it's just important to keep at it, keep trying. I mean, who else is at it here? I mean,
Jesse,
Matt, as you point out over and over and over, shareholders are not doing their job. They don't seem to care.
That is correct. We do know that.
So let Bernie go after them. I'm voting for that one.
Why don't you go next, Matt?
I am going to vote for the
Matt hates them
Florida
all.
House banning social media.
Oh my God!
And I'm not
Stop
going to
it.
vote it. It's
Why?
hard for me to vote for anything for Florida because I think social media is literally the worst thing that's ever happened to humanity.
I agree with you, but how do
and
they even police this?
I
Why
don't know
not go
how they
after the
police it.
companies?
I
Why
don't
not
think
go
it
after the
actually
companies?
passes. I think it has a better chance of passing than Bernie Sanders' bill on CEO pay. But I do
No, they
think-
already passed it. They
They
already
did.
passed it.
I do think that this is like, well, doesn't DeSantis have to sign it?
Of course he'll sign it,
They have enough votes to.
but I'm sure he'll sign it.
I just have this like if I'm watching my daughter go through it right now where it's like she goes to school and there are kids who are like saying things and doing things that they saw on TikTok and she's not on TikTok or social media. So she has no reference for what they're talking about. And it's like exclusionary at the same time. It's generally horrible. And all it does is teach
And these
kids.
kids are 12,
and they're
right?
fucking 12.
Right.
Like, so I ban it all. Shut it all down.
Yeah.
I don't want Zuck to get another dollar. I don't like he owns 80% of the market.
That I
Yeah.
agree with. I just skeptical of Florida in general.
I don't care where it's from. I'm glad they're doing it. So
All right,
that's my
Jesse,
vote.
tell them what the right answer
Same.
is. Oh,
Right
okay.
answer is Florida social
Florida.
media
Yes,
ban.
Florida wins.
Florida Republicans with a win.
There you go.
I
can't
Just leave
believe
that
it.
part out.
I
That's
totally,
funny.
I totally expected that to be the case.
Okay, Matt.
Oh, everybody,
no.
buckle up.
Everyone get ready.
Look,
Do your
on.
stretches.
Go take a water break.
You're gonna
and then
get
come
tense.
back.
I'll keep it quick. All right.
Yeah, come on.
It
That's what you
looks
say
like-
every
Give us a
quick.
break. Give us
First
a
of all,
break.
Damien mentioned the story how unions are fighting a boardroom battle at Starbucks. My first asshole of the week is actually the authors of that story, Ortenka Aliage
Oh,
and
wow, look at
Patrick
you.
Temple West. And here's why. Because they framed this story, when you read the full FT article, as not about employees wanting a non-empty seat at the table. They mentioned this as the launch point to say, this is how investors are using an arcane or weird backdoor rule to advance a social agenda. The whole story.
It's not a social agenda.
Well, this is how they quote
Yeah.
it, right? Here's a quote. quote, I do not think this is the campaign we have been waiting for and worried about. Or I do think this is the campaign we've been waiting for and worried about, says one advisor to large public companies. Single issue activists advancing a social agenda.
Yeah.
And then the authors write, not only must companies contend with challenges from traditional hedge funds, which have long stalked their decision-making, they must also prepare themselves for proxy fights from outfits seeking to reshape their social agendas.
Yeah, it's not representing the employees of a company. That's not a social
It's
agenda.
not a
it's
social
probably the
agenda.
most important stakeholder of your entire corporation.
But my
Should be.
favorite actor of my favorite regulator of 2023, basically, I haven't mentioned her yet this year, but CEO Commissioner Hester Pierce.
Oh my God, Hester.
Yeah, she has a quote about the actual mechanism being used, saying that an investor passionate about issues involving bees would have leverage to demand companies put beehives on the roof of each office building. These are non-binding votes.
Yeah.
Actual investors have to vote on them. You have to get a majority of the non-binding votes to even get anyone's attention.
Right.
To talk about this like it's some slippery slope or we're forcing a social agenda, nothing actually happens.
The slippery slope argument is used for so many things, right? I mean, I remember first hearing about with gay marriage back in like the 90s, saying that
Oh my
you know
God.
what's
Yeah,
next?
that's so
People going to
bad.
marry their dogs.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
that
that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they contrast this with the activist action at Disney, saying, quote, Disney, for example, is facing a conventional campaign led by activist investor Nelson Peltz. Nelson Peltz borrowed shares for his campaign, and his strategy to attack Disney includes no strategy other than Disney said they want streaming to be profitable. Peltz said he wants the streaming to compete with Netflix. Like that's like the conventional campaign.
Yeah.
The whole framing of this article just diminishes the fact that this is a union quashing billionaire.
It's the Financial Times. Know your source.
Oh, yeah, I know, but that's why
Yeah.
I'm talking about who wrote it,
Sure,
right? Like
of course,
because
yes.
they're not
Management
reporting.
friendly.
You're not
Management
reporting like the news. They're reporting on the mechanism to what, and then purporting it to be a social agenda. It's not a social agenda. It's the same mechanism that everybody's used forever. And shame on you, assholes, for writing.
No,
it
in
this way.
fact, there is a bigger picture to this because it's Starbucks. Labor is a major risk going forward in general for whoever's
Yes.
running Starbucks.
That's correct.
Or any company like Starbucks,
Well, but
Like
especially
Southwest.
Starbucks. But especially
where
Starbucks.
they underpay their people.
Because there's been fighting going on for years now. So putting on some directors who are come from labor and have an awareness over labor issues could actually prevent long-term risk at the company by not having this crazy strike breakout like it happened at the big three automakers. I mean, this actually could be a very, very kind of sobering, cautious move as opposed to a social
That's
agenda.
too
social
logical.
agenda.
It's not even like the Strategic Organizing Center, which put this slate up, picked people who are not qualified to be board members.
Right.
Like they're highly qualified human beings.
course.
So what are we really talking about? Number two option, and this is more
Right. To be clear, your number one option was the authors of that.
The
Okay,
authors
got it.
of that.
Number two.
Number two, and this is really there's not really an asshole here, but I want to talk about the big vote segment on our next proxy countdown. We are covering Apple, and as part of that, I looked at skills matrices. A skills matrix is, directors and proxies, they have like a little check the box thing that says like, I have a skill in leadership. I have a skill in politics. I have a skill.
It's not required. They don't all
No,
have them,
it's
but
not
yes,
required.
the bigger companies definitely certainly
Bigger companies tend to have them, and it tells you like what your skills mix for the directors are. They're very, very simple and simplified things in order to give you a quick
It's
snapshot.
like Lego building,
It turns out
Rubik's Cube solving skills.
It turns out not only does no one read them, because if they did read them, they'd recognize that they're totally made up.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part.
I did a deep dive for the Proxy Countdown, which is our other show, which you should go listen to get a recommendation on who to vote for in Apple's upcoming AGM. And I looked at the skills matrix. And I looked at the skills matrix for every board member on Apple and on every other board that they're on.
Okay.
The result was things like this.
Most of them are on other boards, right?
Almost all of them, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
They're
very
heavy
powerful
hitters.
board.
Yeah.
They're
These are,
heavy
these are
hitters.
champions.
So take someone like Andrea Jung, who's on the Apple board. She's listed as having a check next to financial expertise. She has no check mark next to tech expertise.
Well, it's
And-
Apple. I'm sure the bar is pretty high for Apple.
I mean, yeah, sure, but no check mark next to government expertise either. Okay. Except on Unilever, she has no check mark for financial expertise. They have the same. It's basically
Oh, it's the opposite.
It's the opposite. And then it says because she's on the Apple board, she has tech expertise. So Apple
Yeah,
doesn't
right,
think
right,
she has
right.
any expertise, but
Yeah.
Unilever does. And then Unilever says she has geopolitical expertise, which sounds and smells a lot like government expertise that
Yeah, it
Apple
does.
doesn't think that she has.
Yeah.
That's one
Well-
example of on the entire Apple board,
Yeah.
which is what, 9 people?
8. I don't think it'll be 8 after this meeting.
8 people, yeah, after this meeting. On the Apple board, 5 of the 8 had different skills on different boards than on the Apple board.
Well, I'll tell you, I worked at one of the predecessor companies of MSCI that developed a data point asking whether directors have industry expertise. And I'll tell you, this is what we ran into over and over and over, is that the companies lie. You can't take what the companies say. So we had to have an analyst who just did this, tried to figure out what directors' expertise was, because you couldn't even trust the companies, right? Because you're right, they constantly contradicted each other, or they claimed that showing up to 4 board meetings a year represented some kind of expertise in the industry, which is clearly not the case.
But Ron Sugar is on this board, who is one of the most powerful board members in the entire world.
Ever.
And it's like the companies he's on the boards of can't even agree what he's an expert at. Like Apple says he's got no government expertise, no environmental expertise, but Chevron says he has both.
Really?
It's
Yes.
hard
he's-
because he's an expert at everything, but no one wants to say that because then they'll look like they're lying.
But wasn't he the CEO of like a major government contractor, Northrop Grumman?
Yes,
Like,
he was. Of course he was. Yes.
So maybe Apple doesn't know what they're talking about.
Well, somehow Chevron says he has environmental expertise, but Apple says he has no environmental
And
expertise.
destroying the environment.
So, but this is the problem, right? This is why I nominated skills matrices. Because if we're in a world where we want to understand, like, we routinely say that we've heard that the people who sit on boards don't matter, but we care enough to show you all the skills that they have and how they matter. But we just lie about that, right? Like it's all fucking
It's
kabuki
also-
theater. It's all theater.
And I tell you, it's also overwhelming from an investor's point of view, because there's like 19 different skills, and you're right. Like they present it in some table, and there's some weird check marks, and you have to like scan over 400 feet to see who has, experience like using a computer. So it's like it's not helpful. It's just not helpful to investors. And the part of the problem is that the SEC doesn't regulate this
Right.
as
The
data, and they
SEC's fault.
should.
It'll
Well,
be
they
too
should, but they should-
hard to
Yeah, exactly. It's
to
too
report
hard.
on
Everything's
this.
too hard.
All right,
Yeah.
go home, skills matrices. You're drunk.
What else, Matt?
My favorite part about it too is they also have definitions of the skills sometimes, right? Like, and then you got to read that. All right, number 3, I am nominating the Financial Reporting Council.
Oh, good. I know why.
So the UK Corporate Governance Code is up for refreshment, and the Financial Reporting Council is the one who refreshes it. They put out a draft of a new corporate governance code in May, and then they just released the final code, and they removed ESG from most of it, all
ya.
of it. The term,
Well,
the ESG
yeah.
is gone from it.
One of the reasons why, because from May until they actually released the report, there was a heavy anti-ESG sentiment. So they put their finger up in the air, and they didn't like the way the wind was blowing, so they just hit the delete button.
Well, see, I'll refine that, right? Because the FRC, the Financial Reporting Council, is not like some amorphous blob. It is a bunch of people who made decisions. And the name of the people who made the decisions, who removed ESG, actually might matter. The CAEO of the FRC for the first draft was someone named Sir John Thompson. I guess I have to say the sir. Do I have to say the sir?
We're not in the UK.
He was
Sir Elton John.
He's a lifelong bureaucrat, and he's liberal affiliated. He's a civil servant. He was the CEO for the first draft. He was replaced after the first draft, just a couple months after, by a conservative appointed Richard Moriarty. The minister who replaced him has argued that they should frack for natural gas in Yorkshire, like there's natural gas in England, I guess. He voted against same-sex marriage in Ireland, and he once said that parents should be responsible for feeding hungry kids and not accepting charity from a footballer who set up a charity to feed hungry kids.
Wow, Lord.
So the person running the FRC, the CEO,
What's the point of that
changed.
guy? Okay.
So if you're wondering why ESG got removed, it might have something to do with the fact that the person running the FRC went from one guy to another guy, and the other guy was appointed by a conservative politician.
Yeah.
Richard wouldn't allow ESG.
And then finally, your final asshole of the week is Dave Calhoun, the CEO of Boeing. He's probably a winner. I saw him.
Will there be a week where Boeing
don't
is
lead
not
the jury.
in the news?
Well,
Don't lead the jury.
Well, when you hear what he said, New York Times has a long spread about what's going on at Boeing. We've covered it ad nauseum here.
Call us up, New York Times.
Mr. Calhoun, here's a quote from the article. Mr. Calhoun visited the Spirit Aerosystems factory last week. That's the plant that made the door plugs. And Boeing said this week that it was planning to hold a, quote, quality stand down on Thursday, during which production, delivery, and support teams would stop working to attend learning sessions on quality. So Dave Calhoun has basically said,
Oh, boy.
it's the employee's fault that they don't know how to do quality, having nothing to do with the fact that he and his cronies have been leading the company for 20 years into the abyss.
Well, what are you suggesting, that they shouldn't be addressing quality with their employees?
I'm suggesting that Dave Calhoun should not be telling anybody what quality is. He should be fired immediately.
What's amazing, Matt, that during this round, because they were lucky enough that nobody got hurt, that nobody is calling for any executives or board members to step down this time.
It's
unfathomable. We've made the case over and over that it's the same people too. Like I don't know how Dave. I mean, we talked about this yesterday in the show. Dave Calhoun has been attached to Boeing since 2008, I believe. He's
2009 was when he joined the board. Yeah,
he's been in leadership positions since 2011. So it's like how is he avoiding it?
At what point have you had enough? As Dave
Calhoun.
I don't know.
I'm seeing it from the perspective of Dave Calhoun. At what point do you say, you know what? I've made enough money from this company. It's not worth it anymore. All this stress every week on the headlines. Never mind.
But pretending to cry in front of people all the time.
But he's going to miss the board meetings. He's going to miss hanging out with his buddies at the board meetings.
So those are your four options. Your four options are the writers of the FT article.
Yeah, I like that.
Skills matrices, skills matrix fraud, the Financial Reporting Council, and their new CEO, and Dave Calhoun, the CEO of
Dave
Boeing.
Calhoun fraud.
All right, can I go first?
No.
Oh,
Dave Calhoun.
I told you that would be leading the jury.
Yeah, this is why I wanted to go first, because I'm actually not going to vote for Dave Calhoun.
Nice. Okay.
Okay, it's going to come down to Jesse.
Tell me why
And
I'm wrong.
I know Jesse won't support my vote, so it'll probably be a tie. Maybe a tie for Matt. I'm actually going right for the writers of the Financial Times.
Whoa!
Honestly, I mean, really, because I'm glad you pointed this out. I was going to make a note of this on the show, because that stood out to me too. This bullshit about calling it a social agenda, and I think this stuff matters. I mean, I know it doesn't, in the big picture, it seems like a nothing, like a throwaway. But to attach the term social agenda, which
once
somehow
you give
is
it a name.
But somehow it has a negative connotation in our society, which is
the actual thing.
And how does it even have a negative connotation to have an agenda that is trying to take care of fellow human beings? I don't even know how we've got to this point. Like, I don't even understand it. But that they think that appointing board members with an expertise in labor and human resources is a part of some kind of a liberal agenda is just crazy to me. And you're right. And I think it plants seeds into people's and investors' heads that somehow this is like some kind of nefarious woke cause.
Well, now if you vote for the SOC slate at Starbucks, now are you woke, right? Like that's what they're trying to plant. Meanwhile, they talk about the arcane, quote unquote, arcane method that now you can put a slate together through proxy access without mentioning the fact anywhere in the article that A, no investor has to vote for that slate, and B, none of those votes are binding. So it's laughable that anyone can say that you're pushing an agenda when no one has to listen to you at all.
And it's worth pointing out and reminding people that Starbucks is a unique company, right? Where 100% of your interaction with this company is all through these baristas, right? So everyone else is getting rich at headquarters, but all the customers deal directly with these people. They have to deal with everything that happens at this company. So they definitely deserve more respect.
So Jesse,
That's my
break
vote.
the
That's my
tie
vote.
or make the tie.
I am breaking the
Make
tie.
a tie. Make a tie.
And
Oh.
I'm going with Damien. I'm
Oh,
going with the writers of the
there
Financial
it
Times.
is.
We haven't had a tie in a while.
I
All right,
mean,
okay.
Dave's an asshole, but
We
this
know.
is more
We knew
important to
that. We
highlight,
knew
I
that.
think. This is a unique free float. We picked up on it. We're going to put it in everyone's
I like it.
minds. Pay attention while you're reading
Plus-
these things.
Jesse, you're right. We've been saying that Dave Calhoun has
Yeah,
been an
for
asshole for
years.
years. We knew this already. man.
Yeah, that's
So-
true.
That's
come on.
more, that should be more of me then.
All
All right. Speaking of,
Please exhaust us, Jesse.
all right, we're going to go quick. These articles that I picked are just so obvious that I don't even really have to talk much about them.
Okay.
So, first headline, GOP rep, his name is Andy Biggs from Arizona.
Oh, I know Andy Biggs.
Says
No,
woke
we've talked about him.
DEI programs are to blame for airline problems. I decided to put this in my section of exhausting us because we have been hearing this for a couple weeks since we
I love racism.
started to hear these issues about the airlines. It's
We are
everyone's been
exhausted by it.
everyone that wants a scapegoat has chosen DEI. And his quote, and of course he shared his ideas on X,
Yeah, you should
none
not,
other.
You should not share anything anywhere.
None other than X. But here's what he has to say. There have been too many close calls with major airlines recently. Woke DEI programs are placing unqualified pilots into airplane cockpit. These airlines need to be prioritizing safety over diversity quotas.
That's terrible.
It had nothing to do with the pilot
Yeah.
Oh my
that a
God.
door ripped off the plane.
But if
Jesse,
the pilot
Jesse, this
was
is
white,
straight-
that door would have stayed right on.
Jesse, this is like straight KKK, honestly. Like,
Yeah,
there's really no
it's-
difference.
This is partially why it's exhausting. But also, instead of prioritizing DEI, maybe you should not choose profit over safety. DEI
Wait,
is not to
what?
blame
Stop.
for this
Stop.
anymore.
How dare
I think
you?
it wasn't
Growth,
it Andy Biggs.
Growth.
Wasn't
growth.
it Andy
No.
Biggs who said?
If you want a scapegoat, it's profit.
He said something about the was it Andy Biggs who said something about the ball bearings on the Norfolk Southern? Like if they spent more time focused
Probably.
on the ball greasing the ball bearings than DEI, then the Norfolk Southern train would have stayed on
It
the
wouldn't
track.
surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me.
Probably.
Meanwhile, Norfolk Southern
At
run
least
by
he's
crusty old white
consistent.
guys.
Can we just vote now?
Exactly.
in
Oh,
any
I
category?
forgot to say that. It's old crusty white stale boards.
Yeah, that's great.
And cutting costs, which they also did.
Can we just
That's
vote
what
now?
caused. Okay, no, because there's more. So here's my second story. Billionaire Joe Lewis says he's embarrassed by knowingly committing securities fraud after pleading guilty to the crime.
Oh, yeah.
That is not actually the most
That's
exhausting
funny.
part of this
I
story,
should have
though.
put
Yeah.
that in my section.
That's not the most exhausting part. So, first of all, we all know that Joe Lewis is just embarrassed that he actually got caught. He's not embarrassed that he committed it. If he didn't get caught, he'd still be doing this. This is the statement from his lawyer. I mean, I know the lawyer has to be on his side, but this is the statement. This exhausted me. The government has made an egregious error in judgment in charging Mr. Lewis, an 86-year-old man of impeccable integrity. Mr. Lewis has come to the U.S. voluntarily to answer these ill-conceived
stop it.
charges, and we
Like
will
he's never in
defend
the
him
US.
vigorously. Okay, ill-conceived charges? He did something illegal. Like,
Yeah.
And he pleaded guilty.
agreed. He agreed in court that he tipped off acquaintances, pilots that were just like on piloting planes he was on, like just acquaintances with insider info of boards or companies that he was like a large investor on. That's literally illegal. So how are these charges
But
ill-conceived?
he has impeccable integrity.
But he's a billionaire, so he can do
There we
whatever
go,
he
there
wants.
we go. There we go.
So, anyways, that is just completely exhausting. All right.
What else you got?
Are we ready? Ready for my last one?
yeah, is
This
this a
one's
good one?
this one's really good.
Oh, this is
one's-
the one I've
this
been
is-
waiting
this
for.
is
You're
a
already
good
fired
one.
up. Yeah.
Okay. My last exhaustingness is committing crimes in the name of God.
feel-
Here's the headline.
Wow. I like this.
That's a good musical name.
Blah, blah, blah.
Here's the headline. Pastor charged with cryptocurrency fraud said God told him to do it. It gets better, guys. It gets so much better. A Denver pastor, Eligio Regalado, and his wife marketed a digital coin that prosecutors said was practically worthless and pocketed more than $1 million.
Wow.
They used the proceeds to support a lavish lifestyle.
Classic pastor.
He
Yeah.
Regalado,
That's
when
true.
he got when there was the civil complaint was filed in Denver's district court, created a video to address his Christian followers his Christian investors, saying that he went into the cryptocurrency business because the Lord told him to.
Yeah,
He
that's true.
continued.
That's why
to
we started Free Flow.
We have a
That's why we started
transcript.
Free Flow.
He continued to tell his Christian investors that they have to do this. I mean, if you think about it, we took God at his word and sold a cryptocurrency with no clear exit.
Yeah.
They're just
What?
doing what
They're
the
just-
Lord wanted them to do. He also, he and his wife spent a few $100,000 of the funds on a home remodel that the Lord also told
the
them
Lord
to
did-
do.
yes, that's
The
right.
Lord told them to do it. And he says that he still hopes investors can get their money back and believes God is going to work a miracle in the financial
Stop.
sector.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to get an investor?
This is
Yeah.
so good.
Guys, maybe we should try that.
This is
when
so good.
we file for bankruptcy.
When we launder
or
money.
When we.
That's
You know what we should do? When we go to investors and we tell them, we have all the data that you need to make informed decisions on the directors, we can tell them that God is telling them to buy the data. And
We
if
should be
God
telling them.
really
We should be
thinks
telling
I
that
them.
mean,
you
this is
need this
basically
data.
how ISS operates, right? They're like, vote for this person. What? You're asking questions? God said vote for this
I'm
person.
not sure ISS has ever said that. I want for the record. Well,
they have no data.
Never, it's,
Their
can edit
clients
that
don't
out.
know.
all
we
right.
can edit that.
why
out.
they're
I'm really,
voting.
To the
I'm really
live
proud
stream.
of these. What do you guys think?
All right, so wrapping these up is there
easy
is,
for me. Easy for
woke
me.
DEI programs blamed for airline problems. Joe Lewis says he's embarrassed by actually committing securities fraud, and he has impeccable integrity. And finally, a pastor said God made him do a fraud with cryptocurrency.
God, I love crime.
Yeah.
Damien, why don't you go first?
Yeah, this
And
one's
renovate
Oh, this
his
is
house.
simple.
This one's
This
hard.
is simple. Anyone who ever blames a DEI program for anything other than like trying to reverse hundreds of years of like enslaving people in this country, it will always be voted by me for any category. Asshole, exhaustedness.
All right, so-
easy vote for
Okay.
me.
I'll go next.
Easy vote. Andy Biggs.
I'm going with cryptocurrency.
Okay.
Oh, you're crazy.
Yeah.
Because
You're crazy. You're crazy.
This is defrauding by the church in like this century, right? In like real time. They're adapting. It's wonderful.
We already know
Ari-
churches do this, but
I
yeah,
know,
the
but
fact,
crypto,
the fact that they're doing
this is
it through
great.
crypto is rich.
He blamed black people for a door on an airplane.
He
Okay,
blamed
okay.
black pilots for the door coming off the side of the airplane.
pilot.
We're not
Yeah,
trying
the
to switch
pilot.
votes
And it's
here.
not a door; it's a part of the wall with
that
door
angers
plugs.
me. It doesn't exhaust me.
Well, I'm not exhausted.
Okay.
There's not been
like
enough
that.
pastors saying that God told them to make cryptocurrency
No, it's
for me to
committing
get it.
crimes. There's been plenty of crimes committed
Sure.
by people saying,
In the
God
name
told
of
me
God.
to.
I know.
We're-
It's
God
also
wants
the
this.
21st century now.
In the
I'm
name
over
of
it.
God.
I'm
Wait,
actually.
let Ari sing. Let Ari sing more.
Pick quickly so I stop singing.
I'm going to go with Joe Lewis. Actually.
Oh,
Oh, a
look, we
tie,
have
a tie.
Because, and I'm going to sway Jesse here. Because
No.
how many times does a billionaire have to be caught doing a crime and then they say that, this was just and this is an impeccable person. These
a
are
cute
ill-conceived
grandpa.
charges. He's now 86 years old, right? He's been a billionaire for a really long time on the back of some of these egregious crimes that he admitted to, but is still impeccable integrity.
And it's somehow our fault that we are inconveniencing
Yeah,
him
I
with
know.
law.
Like
How dare
the whole
he.
thing is like, you said you did it, and now you're telling us that we are like we're
Egregious.
inconveniencing
You're
you.
bothering
Like
his grandpa.
he came to the U.S. voluntarily to answer these ill-conceived charges. Really? We're sorry, like he's inconvenienced to have to come to the United States because he committed a crime in the United States? That's exhausting. All right, Jesse, you're up.
I don't like how you're leading the jury.
Honestly, I think I'm gonna go with that because I think it sets a really scary precedent. I mean, obviously we know billionaires want to do what can't think they can do whatever they want, and this would just like further confirm that they can, and that scares me. So I'm voting for that.
Oh wow, that means we're on.
Who won the week? I got a quick one.
Go ahead.
It doesn't happen very often.
Winners.
I'm going to say women.
Oh, no. That would be the wrong answer, actually.
According to Yelp, women were the largest demographic of new business owners in 2023.
Okay.
Yelp is a real thing?
Yeah.
But did they get any funding?
Exists?
Yeah, they also went from 6 of them to 8 of them.
Woohoo!
Woo!
Anyway, who you
I'm
got?
going to say I'm saying the empty chair at Starbucks.
Well, see,
Yeah.
that's depressing.
That they did win the week though for
Well,
us.
for me, I mean,
imagery,
it's just
the imagery's so good.
because I swear maybe a year ago, I don't remember what the context of the show we were doing was, but I called Starbucks the greatest gift to a corporate governance ESG analyst. That is my favorite company ever. Because it's just tons of
keeps
stories,
on
and then this happened.
Yeah.
So Starbucks is my
What a
favorite.
nugget.
Come on, I love Starbucks.
Back then, it was the Holocaust blanket, and everybody had to list their favorite Starbucks
coffees,
drink in the
all
proxy. I love
Boomerang CEOs, all of Howard Schultz's bluster, and
All right,
it's
Matt,
just the
who you
greatest.
got?
I have The Rock.
Obviously.
He got $30 million for a
Okay,
rubber
yeah.
stamped vote. Is
pretty
there
big
anybody
win.
who won more than The Rock just did? Like $30 million bucks to show up 12
great.
times a year?
He started out in the WWE, right?
He did, yeah.
Yeah.
Look at
No,
this
he's still in.
inspiration. Look
He's
at
still
this
in the WWE.
inspiration.
Technically, yes.
Started
Well,
out
part
as a
of the-
fighter.
Ari, part of the
Wrestler,
press
I mean.
release, which I didn't say, was that he's gonna return to the ring to face off against the undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns.
I don't know who that is.
Nobody cares.
Yeah,
All
but I'm
right.
just saying, like, he's the director on a board is also going to wrestle on Netflix.
That is-
Come on,
that
this
is
is great.
Well,
Come
I
on.
Gotta be
mean,
the first time that's ever happened.
Zuckerberg and
that is
Musk.
really good.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh,
true.
we haven't said the word Musk this whole time. Sorry, I ruined it.
Oh,
okay,
no.
Jesse,
All
All
go.
right.
right,
Jesse.
I chose Peacock because they report 2.8
Oh,
million
boring.
subscribers for the
Boring.
NFL.
Cares.
I also thought they would be publicly traded, so I tried to dig up some dirt, but
NBC.
They are Comcast.
Right,
no, it's
Comcast owns them.
NBC.
NBC Universal is owned by
owned?
Comcast.
No, it's
Comcast.
privately held. I looked it up.
No, Comcast.
I looked it up.
We
they
might
were
have
owned by
to edit this
Comcast.
later. All right, predictions.
I think. Predictions.
Damien,
Well,
go.
I'll go first because I actually ruined the Musk thing. Although I didn't say Musk.
Oh.
But here is my prediction. In order to get his 25% stake in Tesla, Elon makes a big deal, okay? And he trades his CEO title and his brother. So
I like this already.
So Elon becomes executive chair, right? And Kimball is gone. That's the trade that gets him his 25%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I like that. That's
All right.
That's a good one.
Here's my prediction. Average salary for chief marketing officers is going to take a nosedive this year for 2 reasons.
So
It's a
random.
weird,
It's very
weird
long
prediction.
for 2
yeah.
reasons. 1, as a way to distract from CEO pay, and 2, women outnumbered men in CMO jobs for the first time in 2022,
I thought
Okay,
women won the
Ari.
week.
representing 70% of new appointees. And so
She doesn't
2023
think they're going to win any more weeks.
2023 saw UPS, Etsy, Walgreens, among others, eliminate the CMO position altogether. 2024, we'll see more of that, plus pay cuts. Oh, and
Wow.
here's my add-on prediction. Companies will decrease their outrageous CEO pay ratios by hiring women for the job.
That actually is that's the
it.
one prediction. That's a better prediction.
Thank you.
I don't know what the other one
Good way to
was.
do it. That's good. I like that.
My prediction is simple. It is that we see a rise in the nominations of empty chairs for boards that represent things. They have to specifically say what the empty chair represents, though.
But
Will
will Exxon
BlackRock
sue you
vote
for
for
that?
them?
Yes.
Yeah, I am going to slate a group of empty chairs for the next board, and they
We'll call it the
represent a
Kimball
list.
Musk chair.
That's all we got. That's Hazelnut Rollis and Jesse the Money Whisperer and Ari the Data Queen. I am your analyst, Matt Mascardi. We are Free Float. This is a weird Thursday, Friday show.
Yep.
But listen tomorrow on Friday, Thursday for the Proxy
Oh
Countdown.
God! Stop!
Ari's going to be gone for a while, so you won't hear
Yay!
from her.
Just
Wait,
a
no,
week,
boo.
people. Just a week.
But until she comes back, or next week, whichever comes first, goodbye.